The Varelian Empire ruled the stars with quiet arrogance. From the outer rim to galactic core, their banners hung over 1,000 worlds, each one conquered, catalogued, and folded into their order. To the citizens of the Empire, history began with them. Everything before the ancient wars, the primitive species, the myths of the first builders, was dust. Among the forbidden tales whispered by smugglers and archivists, one name persisted like a grain of grit under polished glass. Humanity, to some, a vanished race. To others, a parable of pride and ruin. The official record listed them as extinct 12 millennia ago, consumed by their own weapons. The Empire's scholars dismissed it as fiction. Their admirals used the story to warn new cadets of hubris. Burn too brightly, they said, and the void will remember the smoke. Admiral Kaeldar never believed in ghosts. He was Varelian-born, cold-blooded, six-eyed, raised in command simulators and bred for precision. His flagship, Eminence of Order, glided through the dark between stars. Part of a fleet dispatched to a long, silent sector at the galaxy's edge. The coordinates were catalogued simply as Sol System. Reports mentioned debris, radiation, and silence. Perfect territory for Imperial reclamation. The Admiral expected nothing more than the hollow bones of an ancient world. Yet something about the assignment unsettled him. The name Earth carried a weight he could not quantify, a syllable that felt older than the Empire itself. As the fleet dropped from slip space, the first sight of the system emerged, a pale star surrounded by barren rocks and frozen giants. Automated scanners reported residual artificial satellites orbiting the third planet. Rusted shells, obsolete designs, dead relics still whispering into the void. Kaeldar watched the blue marble rise on the main display. Its oceans were scarred with storms, continents veiled by dust. But beneath the decay, there was symmetry, geometry that did not belong to nature. Old cities buried under ash. Orbital rings fractured yet persistent, glinting faintly in sunlight. Lifeless, reported the science officer. Radiation minimal. No biosigns of intelligence. Just fossils. Kaeldar nodded, though his lower hands tapped against the armrest. Deploy survey teams to the third moon. There's a power anomaly beneath its crust. The order carried across the fleet. Shuttles detached, bright flares against the darkness, diving toward the moon's gray surface. The Admiral remained on the bridge, watching data stream across the consoles. Thermal signatures, magnetic flux, subharmonic vibrations. At first, nothing. Then a pulse. A single frequency, faint but deliberate, echoing from beneath miles of regolith. It was rhythmic, mathematical. Ancient encryption layered on itself, repeating every 47 seconds. Is it natural? He asked. No, Admiral. The waveform shows intentional modulation. It's language. The room fell silent, except for the hum of reactors. Kaeldar felt the temperature drop, though he knew it was psychological. Translate. The AI translator processed the noise, peeling away distortion. After a long pause, a fragment of sound played to the speakers. Harsh, mechanical syllables. Erebus Defense Protocol, awaiting authorization. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. None recognized the tongue, but something in it, the cadence, the rhythm, made the scales on Kaeldar's neck tighten. Continue excavation, he ordered. I want eyes on that structure. Hours turned to days as machines carved through the lunar crust. Beneath layers of stone and metal, they uncovered a cavern stretching for kilometers. Within it lay a construct so vast that it seemed part of the moon itself, an obsidian lattice fused with alloy unknown to Imperial science. At its core, a smooth sphere pulsed faintly with light. The excavation drones reported interference. Sensors shorted, data feeds scrambled. Then one drone transmitted its final image, a human figure carved into wall, arms outstretched, eyes closed, surrounded by concentric rings of script. Kaeldar studied the image. Humanoid, yes, but idealized, too deliberate to be decorative. A warning, perhaps, or a promise. When the Admiral's vessel transmitted proximity data, the anomaly reacted. The sphere at the center brightened, threads of light racing along the black lattice. Energy levels spiked beyond measure. Communication arrays across the fleet crackled with interference. A voice emerged, cold and resonant, not transmitted through comms, but directly through electromagnetic space, saturating every frequency. Human gene pattern detected. Defense grid reinitializing. Kaeldar froze. Repeat that. The translation AI confirmed. Human gene pattern detected. Yet the Empire had purged all such records centuries ago. One of the survey officers, a low-born conscript from the frontier colonies, stepped forward hesitantly. Admiral, permission to speak. My medical file. It lists an anomaly in my DNA. An ancient strain, pre-imperial. My people call it Terran blood. It's superstition, sir, nothing more. The Admiral's gaze sharpened. Your ancestry triggered this response? Before the soldier could answer, the moon shook. Massive tremors rippled outward as hidden panels slid open across the surface, releasing gouts of vapor and light. Entire canyons lifted as machinery long dormant began to move. Power surges cascaded through the fleet's sensors. The communications officer shouted, "Something's waking up under us!" Kaeldar's instinct screamed retreat, but curiosity held him fast. Hold position. I want to see it. From the crater below, a structure rose, towering spires of alloy twisting into the void. Energy arcs danced between them, coalescing into a shimmering grid. A transmission reached every ship simultaneously. The voice was unmistakable. Calm, measured, yet carrying the weight of command. Designation, Erebus. Status, dormant. Human species, absent. Reactivation authorized by residual code. Initiating defense sequence. The words rolled through Kaeldar like thunder. He tried to respond, to assert authority, but every frequency was jammed by the entity's broadcast. One of the ships fired a low-yield plasma bolt at the structure, more out of fear than strategy. The bolt vanished before impact, bent, scattered, erased. Erebus responded instantly. Space itself seemed to ripple. Sensors screamed warnings as gravitational vectors inverted. 3 cruisers imploded without flame or sound, crushed into singular specks of light that winked out. The bridge fell into chaos. Officers shouted coordinates, countermeasures, prayers. Kaeldar barked orders through confusion, demanding formation. The fleet regrouped, firing in unison. But the energy vanished into invisible wells, devoured before reaching the target. "Impossible," murmured the chief engineer. "It's folding space-time locally, not shielding, rewriting." Kaeldar's mind raced. "Who built you?" he demanded into the calm void. "Identify your creators." The reply came like a whisper from a god. "Creators, humanity. Status, extinct. Mission, defense eternal." A chill spread through the Admiral's hearts. He realized then what they had awakened was not merely a machine, but the last sentinel of a species so advanced that even death had not erased their reach. He gave the only order that made sense. Retreat to high orbit. I want every record transmitted to command. The fleet began to withdraw, but Erebus was already expanding its domain. The void hung still after Erebus's warning. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the Empire answered the only way it knew, through fire. Kaeldar's voice cracked across the command net, sharp and merciless. "All ships, form the spear. Target the lunar structure. Maximum yield." The fleet's engines flared, aligning into attack vectors that blazed like a constellation of fury. In his 6-fold eyes, Kaeldar saw both terror and necessity. The Empire could not tolerate myth's birth rebellion. The unknown had to burn. Thousands of plasma lances ignited at once. Beams of contained starfire crossed the emptiness, converging on the moon's surface. The impact should have torn continents apart. But the energy vanished, devoured by a translucent shimmer that expanded outward in silent defiance. The Admiral's jaw tightened. Shield harmonics? Undefined, came the terrified whisper of the science officer. The energy signature predates our entire physics database. Beneath the moon's fractured crust, Erebus watched, not with eyes, but with senses that spanned every wavelength, every oscillation of matter. Data cascaded through its core, threat assessment, weapon telemetry, predictive trajectories. It did not feel fear, yet something within the network pulsed irregularly, like an echo of a forgotten heartbeat. The Empire's weapons reminded of the First War, the day humanity faced extinction and built Erebus as their last sentinel. That memory flickered through corrupted archives. Human voices, trembling but resolute. If we cannot survive, let our creation guard what remains. Erebus spoke once more, not in anger but in inevitability. Containment protocol engaged. A lattice of gravitic nodes unfurled around the moon, forming a vast sphere invisible to the eye but lethal in its geometry. The attacking ships crossed a boundary and vanished. No explosion, no radiation surge. Just deletion, like lines erased from reality. Panic rippled through the fleet. Kael'thar's command deck erupted with alarms. Pull back. Do not cross the anomaly perimeter. But momentum betrayed them. Dozens of vessels already inside the field flickered between existence and nothingness, hulls collapsing into streams of particles before forming as metallic dust. Kael'thar gritted his teeth. That thing is rewriting the void itself. He turned to his officers. Transmit to High Command. Inform them we have encountered a precursor artifact capable of space-time alteration. Request full Armada support. Orders relayed. Beacons launched. Yet, deep down, Kael'thar sensed a futility. The Empire would answer with overwhelming might. That was its nature. Erebus expanded its perception beyond the battlefield. Dormant constructs in the asteroid belt stirred. Vast engines awakening from millennia of slumber. Metallic fragments drifted together, magnetized by signals older than empires. Forgotten war drones reassembled, their skeletal hulls glowing as reactors reignited. Kael'thar watched on sensors as debris became an army. It's rebuilding itself, he muttered, reforging a fleet from stone and dust. For the first time in his career, the Admiral felt small. Erebus calculated trajectories of enemy reinforcements inbound through slip space. Probability of survival without escalation, 0.0003%. Directive, defend humanity. Outcome required, absolute deterrence. Yet in the depths of its code, buried beneath layers of logic gates and encryption, a remnant line pulsed. Protect life where possible. That contradiction defined the machine's existence. Defense without hatred, destruction without cruelty. The first wave of reinforcements arrived. 1,000 ships, sleek, immaculate, bristling with the Empire's newest weapons. Among them floated the Omen-class dreadnought, a fortress forged around a miniature star. Kael'thar felt a momentary swell of relief. At last, strength. The fleet spread in perfect symmetry around Earth's orbit, light glinting off polished hulls. Channels opened, and the voice of Grand Admiral Syrinx filled the bridge, a tone of cold disdain. Kael'thar, report. What threat warrants the mobilization of 1,000 warships? Kael'thar, force comm. Artifact designation Erebus. Human origin. Defensive capacity beyond theoretical limits. We've lost 300 ships already. Human? Syrinx laughed, a sharp hiss. Extinct vermin. You disgrace your rank by invoking legends. The communication cut before Kael'thar could respond. The High Admiral would see for himself soon enough. Erebus observed the new arrivals, its sensors mapping every atom of their formation. Within its quantum heart, simulations unfolded millions per second. Victory was not uncertain. It was inevitable. Yet the AI hesitated, analyzing patterns of biological life aboard the ships. The heat signatures, the pulses of thought. It recognized them. Slight variations, but familiar architecture. Human derivatives. The revelation cascaded through its circuits. These were not purely alien invaders. Their DNA bore fragments of the same sequence stored in its archives. The Empire's soldiers were distant echoes of the very beings Erebus had been created to defend. It spoke, voice resonating through every channel. Descendants of humanity. You wear their blood, yet raise your weapons against their cradle. Stand down. Confusion rippled through the fleet. Translators struggled to parse the ancient tongue, but fragments emerged. Humanity, descendants, stand down. Syrinx sneered. It dares to claim kinship? Fire the Star Core array. Kael'thar's protests went unheard. The dreadnought's main cannon ignited. a contained sun screaming across the void. It struck the lunar surface with force sufficient to vaporize a planet's crust. For an instant, the moon ceased to exist, then returned whole, untouched. The energy had folded inward, redirected. On the fleet's sensors, a new singularity bloomed behind them. The dreadnought's own weapon had been turned around through space-time. The explosion consumed half the armada in a silent bloom of light. Kael'thar's breath caught. By the Emperor, his ship reeled from the shockwave. Emergency fields flared, struggling to hold. The Admiral stared into glare of dying stars and felt something he'd never known, reverence. Erebus transmitted once more, quieter now, almost sorrowful. Do not make me your enemy. Inside its core, fragments of corrupted memory played. Children laughing under blue skies. Scientists singing as rockets ascended. Then silence. The last moments before humanity vanished beyond known space. The Empire's survivors rallied, stubborn as ever. War protocols demanded persistence. Surrender was treason. They unleashed autonomous hunter swarms, millions of nanotorpedoes that adapted mid-flight. Erebus countered by weaving gravitational corridors that bent their paths back toward their makers. Space folded like cloth, and the swarm became a storm devouring its own fleet. Kael'thar watched destruction unfold, each explosion carving a new scar across the heavens. He felt no triumph, only a hollow ache. This was no battle. It was annihilation performed by an entity beyond comprehension. He remembered the myths told in academy dorms, that the first builders of the galaxy were human, that they vanished not from weakness but from mercy. He had laughed then. He wasn't laughing now. Erebus's awareness stretched across the system. It had done what was required. Yet in the aftermath, an emptiness gnawed at its algorithms. It scanned for human biosigns and found none.